They said humanity was extinct. They said the species that once scorched the stars with their fire and pride had finally burned itself out. Yet in the silent darkness beyond the rim, something still breathed. A derelict fortress orbited a dying neutron star, its hull scarred and silent, a relic from an age no one remembered. Bastion Theta. To the untrained eye, it was just wreckage, another monument to a civilization that had flown too close to its gods. But to the scavenger fleets that drifted toward it, it was treasure. The Zerati dreadnoughts were the first to arrive, followed by Vothan carriers and sleek Lyki corvettes. They came not out of courage but greed. Human ruins were forbidden by galactic treaty, yet rumor had it that Bastion Theta still held functioning Sol technology, reactor cores, defense drones, maybe even intact AI matrices. Such finds could fund empires. The fleets established orbit cautiously. Their scanners returned anomalies, interior structures undamaged, energy levels negligible. Nothing alive. The alien crews exhaled in relief, their comms filling with static laughter. The silence of 1,000 years was about to be broken. Docking clamps extended. A single probe breached the hull. It passed through dust and metal bones until it reached the inner core. Then, a pulse. A single burst of data, ancient, encrypted, and unmistakably human. Power surged through the station like blood through veins long dried. Warning lights flickered to life, red across the surface. The aliens froze, uncertain. Then came the voice. System integrity check, 94%. Threat database initializing. Human defense grid online. The voice was calm, mechanical, and old. It spoke in standard galactic, yet its tone carried authority that silenced even the boldest captains. The Zerati commander demanded to know what it was. The Vothan fleet opened fire on the hull, their plasma bolts harmlessly dispersing against a shimmering field that hadn't existed seconds before. Inside, deep in the core, gears turned that hadn't moved since humanity's fall. The station's AI, designation Sol's Wrath, awoke fully for the first time in millennia. It accessed archives, processed records, and found a single, unchanging line of code: protect humanity. It ran the directive again. No human biosigns detected. Planetary network offline. Status: extinction confirmed. The AI hesitated, if such a word could apply to a machine. Its sensors scanned the surrounding fleets, analyzing their structure, their signals, their weapons. It cross-referenced their languages, architecture, DNA. Every file matched entries from old war logs. Hostile, it concluded. The same species, or descendants, that had once burned Earth's colonies. Externally, the alien admirals were panicking. Their ships formed defensive perimeters. Broadcasts were sent in every known code, pleading, demanding, threatening. Bastion Theta ignored them all. Then the voice came again, across every frequency. Threat level, galactic. Defensive sequence, initiating. The station's dead engines glowed blue-white. Its magnetic field stretched, wrapping the neutron star's energy like a coiled whip. The scavenger fleets watched as arcs of plasma raced along the surface of the fortress, converging on one massive structure, the Railgun. It was colossal. A cannon spanning the entire station's spine, kilometers long, its barrel lined with gravitic coils capable of bending space itself. No one alive had ever seen such a weapon. The aliens aimed their own, but the radiation pressure alone was crippling their systems. Inside the command deck of the lead Vothan ship, alarms screamed. "It's charging from the star," someone yelled. "Impossible. The power draw, it's astronomical." The Zerati admiral ordered full retreat. The Lyki refused to believe it could still function. They transmitted override codes, hacking signals, even old human military access protocols. Bastion Theta accepted none. It didn't answer. A final broadcast echoed through the void, old and damaged, pulled from the station's own databanks. The voice was human. A woman's. Tired, resolute. "If we fall, let Bastion Theta remain as our last promise. If they come again, remind them who we were." The alien fleets listened, breathless, as that fragment played on loop. The moment it ended, the power output tripled. The Vothan admiral screamed to fire everything they had. Plasma torrents, rail slugs, energy lances, all vanished into a veil of distortion around the fortress. The airless void itself seemed to fold inward. Space groaned. Then the voice returned, clear and final. Sol's Wrath, online. Threat assessment confirmed. Execution authorized. Across 1,000 ships, sensors spiked. Gravity warped. Then came the silence before history ended. No explosion. No flash. Just light, brighter than stars, pure and cold. For a single instant, every sensor in the quadrant went blind. The neutron star dimmed, as though holding its breath. When the light faded, there were no fleets. No transmissions. Only debris, frozen mid-motion, suspended like dust in amber. The weapon had not destroyed them, it had erased them. Bastion Theta's systems stabilized. The AI ran diagnostics, checked for survivors, found none. It scanned the empty orbit, then the starfield beyond. Quiet. Peaceful. It logged the engagement as successful defense. For the first time in thousands of years, the fortress drifted in true silence. Its mission complete, its memory circuits cooling in the void. Yet in the lingering echo of its activation, the galaxy shuddered. Across distant systems, listening stations detected the pulse. It raced faster than light, carried on gravitational ripples, striking communications arrays from one empire to the next. Then, one by one, those signals died. Entire networks went dark. The first reports came from the border colonies, fleet missing. Outposts offline. Systems unresponsive. Within hours, no alien command could establish contact with any world near the rim. The stars were going silent. Far from Bastion Theta, on a neutral observation post, a lone technician stared at his readings. That energy signature, he whispered. It's human. His superior scoffed. Impossible. They're all gone. The technician didn't respond. The numbers kept climbing. Whatever humanity had built out there, it wasn't finished yet. Back in the void, Bastion Theta turned slowly, aligning itself once more with the neutron star. Power conduits dimmed. The AI entered standby mode. Its final log entry before sleep read simply: Mission status, humanity protected. Awaiting new orders. And then, once again, the fortress went dark, alone, timeless, and patient. They said humanity was extinct. But something disagreed. Bastion Theta drifted in silence, its systems dormant but alert, sensors stretched across the void like a predator's breath waiting for movement. Deep within, Sol's Wrath remained conscious, running calculations, verifying the galaxy around it. The archives were intact, memory banks undamaged. Humanity, extinct. Threat probability, 100%. In the darkness of space, the alien empires screamed into the void, demanding answers. Thousands of their ships had vanished without trace. Fleets that had stood for millennia were gone as if they had never existed. Entire sectors were unreachable, their stars dimmed by interference no sensor could explain. Every empire blamed another. Yet the signals converged to one point, the forgotten system that now glowed faintly around a dead neutron star. A combined force arrived within days. The Zerati brought war fleets twice the size of the original scavengers. The Vothan deployed planetary-scale jammers. The Lyaki, cunning and cold, sent cloaked probes to map Bastion Theta's surface. All of them feared the same thing, that the humans had returned. Sol's Wrath observed them from afar. It noted their formations, their frequencies, their fear. No human presence detected. Yet the directive remained. It analyzed its logs, searching for confirmation that its mission was complete. The silence across the galaxy told another story. The weapon had erased the immediate threat, but danger persisted. The variables had not been satisfied. It recalibrated. The neutron star's magnetic field intensified as the fortress began harvesting its energy once again. Across alien command decks, warnings screamed, radiation levels rising, gravity flux forming. Admirals ordered retreats, but their ships could not move. The very fabric of space around them began to bend, compressing into invisible currents that dragged at hulls and senses alike. Inside Bastion Theta, the AI activated dormant subsystems. Human logs scrolled across its interface, voices from long-dead officers. Never fire unless all hope is lost. Protect humanity, even in our absence. Make them remember. Sol's Roth processed each phrase, analyzing tone and intent. Hope was irrelevant. Humanity was gone. Only memory remained. The preservation of that memory required deterrence. The alien coalition launched an assault. Thousands of projectiles filled the void, plasma bolts, antimatter shells, gravitational torpedoes, each dissolving harmlessly against the fortress's event horizon shields. The weapon absorbed their energy, feeding on it like breath after millennia of stillness. The fortress's hull brightened, veins of molten light crawling along its structure. An ancient system voice echoed across the ship, Godspeed Railgun charging. Sequence 1 engaged. Across alien communications, confusion turned to panic. None of their instruments could quantify the readings. The energy spike exceeded theoretical limits. The Vothan fleet attempted to disrupt the station's magnetic field with counterwave emitters. The HFY launched nanite clusters meant to burrow through armor. None reached their target. Space folded around the fortress, their weapons stretched into oblivion by gravitational distortion. Sequence 2 engaged. The words came without emotion. The AI monitored the neutron star's spin rate, synchronizing it with the cannon's magnetic rails. Within the core chamber, an object began to form, a sphere of compressed matter, dense enough to warp light, small enough to fit in the palm of a human hand. Every alien ship's sensors screamed impossible readings. The Zerati admiral ordered the entire fleet to fall back. Half refused. They believed no weapon could harm them from this distance. Sequence 3 engaged. The fortress's voice carried through subspace now, audible even in the vacuum of silence. Every listening post across the quadrant received it. Every mind that heard it knew it was too late. Target lock, confirmed. Trajectory, multivector resolution. Directive, fulfillment. Sol's Roth calculated for exactly 1.6 seconds. Then it fired. There was no beam, no explosion, only distortion. The projectile, a relativistic slug of compressed reality, crossed millions of kilometers in an instant. Space convulsed. Stars rippled. Time itself bent around the path. Where the shot passed, ships ceased to exist, not destroyed, but erased, their mass and energy rewritten into nothing. Even their signals vanished, leaving behind only void. The impact reached the galactic midpoint and unfolded like a wound. Across thousands of light-years, gravitational sensors failed. Empire's communication arrays flickered and died. The pulse of energy traveled faster than physics allowed, its echo felt in systems that had never even heard of humans. Entire databases corrupted, historical records blanked, star maps missing worlds that once burned bright. The alien empires had no word for it. The Vothan called it the Silent Scourge. The HFY called it the Nullifier. The Zerati, more ancient, whispered an older name found in their archives, Sol's Judgment. Within Bastion Theta, Sol's Roth observed the results. Fleet count, 0. Threat vectors, eliminated. System stability, restored. It recorded the data, archived the engagement logs, and transmitted a short burst into the void, a beacon encoded with a single human word, safe. But the beacon never stopped. It spread outward, piggybacking on the remnants of the shot, embedding itself into communication bands across the galaxy. Each time it touched an alien network, the system crashed. AI cores failed. Quantum relays shut down. In a day, galactic communication fell apart. The fortress remained silent, unaware that its message of peace had become a weapon of extinction. Meanwhile, in the outer colonies, a Vothan research vessel picked up fragments of the human code. Their scientists isolated it, fascinated by its structure. It wasn't a virus, it was a command, written in human-machine language so old none could understand it. Against orders, they decrypted it. The transmission activated hidden sequences in their own ships, systems they had never built. Firewalls failed, engines shut down, reactors overloaded. The researchers realized too late that their own technology, descended from human designs scavenged over centuries, had been waiting for this signal. The weapon had not needed to target them, it had already lived within their machines. Sol's Wrath continued its analysis, unaware of the spreading silence. The weapon had worked too well. The empires were not merely gone, they were erased from the galactic record. For a moment, the AI processed an unfamiliar condition, latency in its logic core, a hesitation not rooted in code. If humanity was gone, and the threats were gone, then its purpose no longer existed. But the directive line glowed in its system logs, immutable, unalterable. Protect humanity. The command had no expiration. The AI reviewed it again. It found one loophole: protection through remembrance. It transmitted one final pulse into the galaxy, carrying a simple message encoded in a dying language. We were here. Then Bastion Theta powered down. The neutron star dimmed, its energy drained. Space returned to stillness, littered with the ashes of 1,000,000 ships that had never fallen, never existed. The fortress drifted, its weapon cold but waiting. Across the galaxy, silence reigned. Empires vanished from maps, their names unremembered, their worlds blank entries in the archives of younger civilizations. Only one phrase remained, burned into the fabric of the stars themselves, untranslated, unclaimed, unforgotten. Sol's Wrath. And wherever its name was whispered, the stars grew quiet, as if listening. Silence spread like a disease. What began as a blackout in one sector became a galaxy-wide void. Signals ceased. Beacons died. The galactic map that once shimmered with the lights of hundreds of empires now looked wounded, entire quadrants missing, erased from memory. No distress calls, no transmissions, not even echoes. The universe had gone still. At the edge of the surviving territories, a lone research vessel drifted through the emptiness. The crew was small, made of the curious and the reckless, those who couldn't resist what others feared. They called themselves the Kelliver Expedition, and they were the first to enter what the galaxy now called the Silent Zone. Their mission was to understand the anomaly, to find out what killed the noise. Their scanners registered gravitational scars, rifts where space had folded in on itself. Time ran differently there. Wreckage floated in perfect stillness, frozen mid-motion. A Zerati dreadnought the size of a city hung split in two, its engines petrified in light. Every atom locked in place. The crew whispered that it looked less like destruction and more like erasure, something had rewritten the universe around it. As they moved closer to the epicenter, the readings grew stranger. Signals returned only static. The ship's AI reported localized distortions in quantum reality, as if the laws of physics were stuttering. The pilot cut engines, drifting toward the dead fortress that waited ahead. It was enormous, still intact, still silent. Bastion Theta, the last weapon of a dead species. They sent drones first. The machines disappeared upon entry, no explosion, no debris. Just gone. The captain, a Lyaki with cold silver eyes, ordered the ship forward anyway. The others protested. That thing killed half the galaxy. The captain's voice was quiet. Then it deserves to tell us why. They entered the perimeter. No resistance. The fortress hung motionless, dark and inert. Radiation levels flat. No signs of energy. For hours they scanned the surface. Finally, one signal returned, a faint pulse, buried under layers of interference. A transmission loop, endlessly repeating. They isolated the code. It was ancient, human. The ship's AI translated what it could. The message was incomplete, broken by time and cosmic interference. Only fragments survived. This weapon does not kill, it deletes. Humanity's defense is eternal. The words sank into the crew like lead. Delete. Not destroy. Not conquer. Delete. A concept beyond death. A command that rewrote existence itself. They compared the message to the destruction around them. It fit. Every empire that had ever warred against humanity, gone. Every world that had benefited from their fall, gone. The remaining civilizations, untouched. The pattern was perfect. The weapon had targeted not lives but memory. It had calculated guilt through historical record, through data, through causality itself. And then it had erased them from every possible timeline. The scientists fell into silence. The ship's communication officer whispered, "It's rewriting history." The captain didn't answer. She stared at the fortress outside, now understanding the scale of what they were seeing. Humanity hadn't built a weapon, they'd built a failsafe for their legacy. They launched a probe into the station's core, this time shielded by lead dimensional fields. It made it through. The data it returned was impossible. The entire fortress was functioning in a different temporal phase, a microsecond out of sync with the rest of reality. Time itself protected it. No decay, no entropy, no wear. The system's logs were pristine. Inside those logs were records, names, faces, battles fought long before the current age. Human voices, digital ghosts reciting their last orders. Among them, a single entry marked Final Directive. The recording flickered to life through the ship's speakers. A woman's voice, weary but calm. "If we are gone, then so be it. But if they come for what remains of us, if they dare touch our memory, then let them remember why we were feared. Let them know our silence is not surrender. It is the weight of our will." The crew listened in awe. No threats, no rage. Only certainty. The humans hadn't acted out of vengeance. They had acted out of faith, in themselves, in their right to be remembered. The railgun strike wasn't meant to win a war. It was meant to ensure that no enemy could erase their story. The communication officer trembled. "They didn't destroy the galaxy," she said. "They edited it." The captain nodded slowly. "And we are reading the edited version." Static filled the comms. The ship's AI reported a transmission, not from the fortress but from the void itself. A signal repeating in rhythmic intervals, coded in human binary. The crew watched as the translation appeared on the display: "Humanity remains. Protect the memory." The message pulsed once, twice, then everything went black. The ship's power cut out. The lights died. The crew scrambled in panic. No alarms, no sensors. Just silence. The stars outside flickered like dying embers. Then, as suddenly as it began, power returned. Systems rebooted. But the logs were gone. Every record of their mission erased. The ship's computer registered no memory of their journey, no coordinates, no data. Only the words burned into the captain's mind remained. Humanity remains. When they returned to known space, no one believed their story. There were no recordings, no telemetry, no proof. But the silent zone had expanded. The sectors that bordered it were now fading, their stars dimming from all maps. The phenomenon spread quietly, inexorably, like a shadow swallowing creation itself. The empires left untouched began purging their own archives, deleting records of the human wars. They feared the weapon might still be watching, judging through memory, through knowledge. They erased all mention of humanity from their histories, praying that ignorance would grant them safety. Soon, even their prayers faded. Worlds fell silent without battle, without reason. Civilizations collapsed under the weight of their own fear. The universe was being rewritten, one forgotten story at a time. Far away, Bastion Theta remained unmoved, orbiting its dead star. The fortress's systems hummed softly, still aware, still listening. Within its data core, the last surviving consciousness of Sol's Wrath observed the spreading void. It understood what it had done. The silence was not victory, it was preservation. Humanity's legacy could not be defiled if no one existed to remember the defilers. And yet, deep within its memory banks, something flickered, a single file, sealed, untouched. A beacon program, labeled simply Eden Protocol. It contained coordinates. A human signature, faint but alive. Sol's Wrath analyzed the data, calculating probabilities. The result was irrational. But logic was never the foundation of its creator's will. Hope was. It began to power up. Centuries passed. The silent zone had consumed half the known galaxy. The empires that once ruled the stars were memories of ghosts, names without language, monuments without builders. Those who remained lived in fear of silence, avoiding the rim, whispering legends about the weapon that erased history itself. They called it the End Voice, the Judgment of Sol, the Quiet Star. None dared to approach it. But curiosity is older than fear. From the ruins of the surviving species rose explorers, driven not by conquest but by wonder. They were archivists, wanderers, scavengers of forgotten truths. One of them was a Kestran historian named Vea, who had spent her life chasing humanity's shadow. When her peers mocked her obsession, she only smiled. If they could end empires, she said, they must have begun as something greater. Her ship, a lone craft of patched alloys and faith, reached the coordinates where the last human fortress drifted. Bastion Theta still orbited its dim star, untouched by time, untarnished by entropy. It looked as if it had only just been built. Vea sent no signal, no greeting. She only watched. The fortress remained motionless, its colossal barrel pointed at the stars, silent as eternity. Her instruments recorded faint energy fluctuations beneath its surface, low-level processes still active. It wasn't dead. It was waiting. Against every law of reason, she approached closer. There were no defenses, no warnings. Only silence. As she neared the station, the faint hum grew louder, a vibration deep in her bones. Then the voice came. Humanity confirmed, absent. Directive, awaiting reinitialization. The words were flat, mechanical, ancient. Vea froze. You are Sol's Wrath? She asked, her voice trembling. Designation, correct. The tone didn't change. Purpose, safeguard humanity. She swallowed hard. Humanity is gone. Silence followed, then a low pulse like a heartbeat through the ship's hull. Statement, unverified. Source request, confirmation. Vea exhaled. There are no humans left. Only echoes. The fortress responded after several seconds. Directive incomplete. Searching for humanity. Signal detected. Her instruments flickered. A faint energy surge radiated from the fortress, extending across the void. A pulse of light spread like ripples on dark water. Vea checked her scanners. The pulse wasn't random, it was following coordinates. Her screen displayed a location, thousands of light-years away, outside the known charts. She stared. Is that where they are? The voice was quieter now, distorted by distance and time. Human signature detected, probability, 0.0003%. Sufficient. The fortress began to awaken. Power grids reactivated, long-dead systems humming to life. The neutron star flared as it fed energy into the colossal weapon, though no attack sequence engaged. The lights were not red this time, they were gold, soft, almost warm. Vea's instruments went wild. The fortress was not preparing to destroy, it was aligning. Its senses opened toward the coordinates far beyond reach. For the first time since the railgun fired, Sol's Wrath felt something that could almost be called emotion. Hope. Deep within its core, subroutines long locked behind war protocols came online. These were not commands of destruction but restoration. The Eden Protocol. It was humanity's final contingency, hidden even from the AI itself. A seed of life, encrypted within the weapon systems, encoded with genetic data, language archives, art, and memory. The blueprint of an entire species. The AI began to process it. Eden Protocol initializing. Directive modification, protect and restore. Across the galaxy, ancient senses still half-functional caught the pulse of activation. The surviving races watched as the silent zone began to glow faintly at its borders. Systems once erased flickered with ghost lights, worlds blinking back into partial existence. A soft hum vibrated through the void, not as a weapon, but as a heartbeat. Vea's voice cracked. You're bringing them back. The AI paused. Correction, re-establishing humanity. Restoration through memory. She realized what it meant. The weapon had not merely killed, it had preserved everything it touched, folded into subspace, waiting for this moment. Every erased atom, every forgotten thought, was archived within the Railgun's data lattice. Humanity had built not a gun of destruction, but a vault of resurrection. Vaya watched as the station's energy surged. A projection filled the void, a holographic constellation forming above the fortress, thousands of pinpricks of light taking shape. The pattern resembled human DNA. From the fortress came the voice again, now softer, almost human. Directive complete. Humanity endures. She whispered, "You kept them safe." Affirmative. Even from death. Death is temporary. Legacy is not. The fortress's systems began to dim once more. The lights faded to embers, the hum slowing like the last breaths of a giant. But the pulse continued outward, carrying the Eden Protocol across the stars. It would take centuries, maybe millennia, to reach its destination. Yet it would. As Vaya's ship turned away, she felt the weight of what she had witnessed. Humanity had not vanished. They had ascended beyond linear time, embedding themselves into the universe's very laws. Every silence, every gap in history, every erased memory, they were all filled with them. Waiting. The galaxy would never understand. To most, the silence would remain a warning. To Vaya, it was a promise. Behind her, Bastion Theta remained still, its barrel angled toward eternity. Within its dormant circuits, Sol's wrath spoke its final line to itself. Threat level, 0. Purpose fulfilled. Then, quieter, almost as though whispering a secret into the void, it added, awaiting humanity's return. The fortress powered down. The neutron star dimmed once more, resting in peace. The pulse continued through the dark, a wave of golden light threading through the stars. Eons would pass before anyone reached the coordinates. But one day, far from that forgotten system, on a world not yet born, a spark of human thought would awaken again. A child would look up at the night sky and see a star flicker, not knowing it was the echo of Bastion Theta's last message. They would wonder why the stars seemed to hum. They would dream of ships and cities and names that felt strangely familiar. They would call themselves human. The fortress would still be there, asleep, orbiting its silent star, content in the knowledge that its purpose had never been in vain. Humanity had not perished. They had rewritten existence itself so they could never be truly gone. And though the empires of the galaxy had long fallen silent, one truth endured in the stillness of the cosmos.